to the organizers for making this event and adventure possible. It's the first time for us to participate in an online format like this. In our presentation, we want to focus on one general characteristic of transdisciplinary research settings and according processes, their unpredictability. And in this context, we will refer to the question how to foster traceability in highly unpredictable research processes in order to foster robustness. We've heard two contributions which laid the ground for our presentation, who we also referred to socially robust knowledge. We want to question how we can produce knowledge which is not only socially robust but also acceptable for scientific communities. We will approach this by rethinking our concept of method in transdisciplinary research, which we consider as an additional form of research. Matthias will then come up with a definition of transdisciplinarity and line out dimensions of integration in transdisciplinary research processes. He will then introduce a model for transdisciplinary research processes and show how diverse types of integration methods can be applied. Any research process is to a certain extent unpredictable. For instance, we may gain crucial insights at an early stage of our research which forces us to rethink our research design, or personal reasons may influence the course of our research process. And when it comes to working in teams, unpredictability increases, in particular due to the incidence between researchers in the course of the interpretation of research results or in daily collaboration in the office. This is self-evident and has been subject of many science studies for decades. However, disciplinary and even to a certain extent interdisciplinary studies allow for a more or less detailed planning of research designs in advance. Respectively, changes in the research architecture can be systematically implemented and taken into consideration when interpreting research results. When practicing transdisciplinary research, this situation changes fundamentally, as we are moving with our research activities into living contexts. We are creating research spaces which embrace the former research subject as part of the research team. To give an example, and we've heard examples already, a community which would serve as a research subject in disciplinary or even interdisciplinary research investigating, for example, the phenomenon of regional transition processes in transdisciplinary research is regarded as research partner for co-producing knowledge with scientists. This setting aims at inducing transformation yet within the research process by entangling knowledge production and implementation of research results. But this makes the research process irreducible, complex and unpredictable, as the external position of the researcher, taking into consideration the phenomena of interest from outside through the lens of a certain theory, guided by established methods, is no longer given the same way. Co-production requires more than stakeholder involvement at a certain predefined stage of the research process. It requires a shift from in vitro to in vivo research, as formulated by Basarab Nicolescu once, which is a demand that challenges fundamental pillars of science and the role and position of science in society, which is an extensive issue which will be discussed in many facets during this conference. In our presentation, we want to draw the attention to one specific aspect. In order to create a maximum of traceability of research activities, it is of high importance to apply established methods or to refer to established methods when it comes to develop new procedures, which may lead into new methods that support the task of integration in completely highly uncertain research settings. By methods, we do not only refer to research methods in a traditional sense, which we are familiar with in disciplinary or interdisciplinary research. We refer to methods as a wide range of different types of formalized procedures which aim at different tasks in the transdisciplinary research process, such as collaboration methods which aim at creating conditions for joint thinking and acting, assessment methods which aim at dealing with perspectives and values, or even evaluation methods, which also have been mentioned already, which aim at quality improvement, as they can have a significant impact on the research process when evaluation is applied in the course of the research itself, like informative evaluation processes, or even management methods applied in the course of the research. The providing of conditions for joint working on challenges or problems in order to understand and transform them. The management of a team or the negotiation of results can no longer be regarded as research periphery. They are highly influencing the research process and accordingly the research results, and should therefore be systematically taken into consideration. We have to be reflexive and precise on how we approach the diverse dimensions of transdisciplinary research. And like we are carefully selecting a research method for collecting a certain type of data, to give an example, we should do it likewise with any other dimension of transdisciplinary research processes. In the following, Matthias will now outline the structure of a transdisciplinary process which was developed by the Institute for Social Ecological Research in Frankfurt, and he will give examples of how different tasks of integration can be addressed by mixing and coupling diverse types of methods. The work he's presenting was elaborated together with colleagues, some of them being around somewhere in the cloud or even Australia, and it's called Methods for Transdisciplinary Research, and was published in 2012. Many thanks. Matthias.
Thank you, Ulli, and hello to Canberra as well from me. I'm going to start with the definition. We already saw one by Merit Polk. It's very close to what she was defining there. It sounds like transdisciplinarity is a reflexive research approach that addresses societal problems by means of interdisciplinary collaboration, as well as the collaboration between researchers and extra-scientific actors. Its aim is to enable mutual learning processes between science and society, and the rest is integration is the main cognitive challenge of the research process, and that's my special task, the integration or the methods for integration in research processes. And what I'm presenting is taking the perspective of the research practice in general. When we are talking about integration, there's another definition that I like even a bit better than my own, I have to confess, because it says that integration is not only necessary on concerning people from the sciences and the society, but also concerning theories and methods and concepts that are used in the participating disciplines or scientific fields. This one is a definition that is not generated in the realm of the sustainability studies I'm working in. Then Stockholz and colleagues are working in the field of participatory and transdisciplinary public health studies. When we are talking about integration, then we always try to make a distinction between three dimensions of integration. There's this cognitive epistemic dimension in the first section that is on the distinction between and the linkage of expert or disciplinary knowledge bases as well of scientific and practical real-world knowledge. The second that has to be considered, the second dimension is the social and organizational dimension, where the distinction between and the correlation of the participating researchers and experts' different interests and activities is important. And finally, there is the communicative dimension of the integration and transdisciplinary research. That is concerning the distinction between and linkage of different linguistic expressions and communicative practices, aiming at developing something like a common language or discursive practice. During our research on transdisciplinarity during the last 10 or 12 years, we developed this model for what we call a reflexive transdisciplinary research process. That is looks a bit complex, and therefore I will build it up step by step in a minute. It's very common to separate three phases of this transdisciplinary research process. We do that, and others do that as well. The phase A, the project constitution and problem framing phase. The phase B, the project execution, naming the co-production of solution-oriented and connectable knowledge, and finally the transdisciplinary reintegration and bringing results to fruition. When I build this up from the very beginning, I will supplement it with a number of examples for integrative methods at the same time. So it will be looking even a bit more complex at the end when we are finished to build this up. Of course, we will start with the societal problem, as everywhere when we want or have to make use of the transdisciplinary approach. And I think it's important to say transdisciplinarity is not the best research method. It is one that is appropriate for complex societal problems. When we start with the societal problem, we are facing contested knowledge and contested values and missing target and transformation knowledge and so on and so on. Merit Polk already mentioned some of these. And then when we are constituting the project and building up the team and trying to frame the problem, we will face another type of problem, scientific problems. If we want or not, they come in. There are also, due to contested and highly contested knowledge between the disciplines that have to take part, missing systems knowledge, and of course, due to the disciplinary boundaries and limitations of knowledge transfer between the different spheres. So what we have at the start of the problem framing and constitution process is a societal problem or societal problems, and at the same time a number of scientific problems. If we have a closer look to this constitution phase, we have to take 4 single steps one after the other carefully. Building a research team means before we can integrate people, we have to identify the expertise needed and to distinguish between specific contributions. And we have to build up the team then, and one of the appropriate integrating methods is the actor analysis. The second step after the team is built up is the common description of the societal problem. That's very important to find this joint description, because there are so many different perspectives and perceptions of the problem that if you miss this step in the very beginning, you will generate a lot of problems for the following research process. An integration method that is very helpful in this phase is kind of hypothesis building and building of group models, as seen in this example from a Swiss transdisciplinary research process, where you can see that the reasons for the societal problems grouped here, and that there are a number of contradictions, a number of interferences, and so on and so on. This is a very helpful integrative method in this step of the common description of the societal problem. Then you have to translate the problem into a common transdisciplinary research object, something that is treatable with scientific means, and then the development of a common language is a very important instrument and very important procedure to develop common concepts and common notions. And at the very end of this first phase A, the common formulation of sub-questions, intro transdisciplinary research questions, is the task aiming at connectability. And when you do this, a real transdisciplinary research process is is supported by a formulation of problem-oriented and not discipline-oriented research questions. And then, by realizing that, this has an impact on the composition of the subteams, of course, and the design of inter- and transdisciplinary cooperation. So this highly scientific formulation of problem-oriented research questions is very closely connected with the organization or management of the research team in general. Coming to the phase B, the co-production of solution-oriented connectable knowledge, you have to have integration interfaces, phases of collaboration between the sub-projects, a highly integrative coordination, and of course there are a number of supporting integrating methods like multi-criteria assessment, building models, highly integrative, development of new interdisciplinary methods. Just to give an example of what I mean with this, in one of our projects on sustainable urban mobility, we developed something that we called mobility style analysis. That is a combination of a quantitative research method in transportation research and a qualitative method, namely the lifestyle analysis in the social sciences. And this is a combination, a new method that is widely used in transportation planning here in Germany, for instance. The connectability and synthesis provided by iterative recursive procedures or by building up transdisciplinary tandems from the science and from the society are supporting management instruments in this phase. And at the very end, the transdisciplinary reintegration can be done with the aid of reintegration through key questions aiming at strategies for the societal problem on one hand, and concepts and methods for solving the scientific problems. But also considering about joint publication, I don't mean edited volumes, I mean really joint writing, makes it necessary to formulate rules for the common writing, completely different method or instrument. So, and then we can fulfill this left loop here for the transformation or solution of the societal problem by formulating these results coming out from the reintegration in the third phase for the societal practice, inducing the societal discourse, and on the other hand, we can fulfill this other loop in formulating the results for scientific praxis as the methods and new research questions and inducing a scientific discourse. We were collecting these methods in a book that is ordered into 7 sub-chapters where we decontextualized this method that we identified in research projects, and we ordered them in a kind that we called an epistemic order. These 7 chapters are integration through conceptual clarification and theoretical framing, research through integrating research questions and hypotheses, integration through using and developing of integrative scholarly methods like the mobility style analysis, through integrative assessment methods, through the development of application of models, through artifacts, products and concepts, and at the very end through integration through procedures and instruments of research organization. So we start with the theoretical framing in the chapter A and end up with the research organization in the chapter G, and that is what we call the epistemic order of the description of all these 42 or 43 single methods. All this is published in this wonderful book, Methods for Transdisciplinary Research, and that's it. Thank you to Canberra.
Thank you from my side too.
Thank you very much, Ulli and Matthias. I particularly enjoyed the way you stepped us through those pretty complex diagrams. It was a really helpful way of navigating us through. I'd like to start off by inviting anyone in our online audience who may have a question, and Robin tells me there is. Yay.
There is. I think it's Martina again. Oh, she says hi. She appears to know you. There's a bunch of personal stuff. No, not really. It's Martina Yukowitz. She knows you. I'll do my best to do this justice. You said that TD processes are highly unpredictable and a mixing of different methods is necessary. How do you manage the mixing of methods in your research practice? How much has to be planned in advance? What about the possibilities of a recursive planning during processes? Good luck.
So, of course, the earlier in the stage of the research process you are, the better you can plan. So you can make plans for the very first composing of the team or for the description of the societal problem by using methods like the group model building or something. But of course, all this is a recursive process because if you are describing the research questions at the end of the phase A, for instance, you very often realize that you are missing expertise from the sciences or from the society. And then you have to go up again and do the whole procedure from the very beginning by describing it or finding a joint description of the societal problem and so on and so on. And the farther you go into the research process, the less you can plan it. You can make plans which methods to use or which methods to develop. This is a discursive practice that you have to, you have to cope with.
I'd like to address to the second aspect, the mixing and coupling, and underline our core argument. My core argument of the first part of the presentation was to rethink our concept of methods, and we wanted to draw the attention to the need to apply established, formalized modes of creating a joint space of collaboration. Like there are many existing collaboration methods, or not only sitting on a round table discussing without a format, without a specific structure, because it helps to link these different dimensions of formalized procedures, methods to each other. And this is what I wanted to underline once again. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. We've got a few questions in the room here, so over in the corner there. Sorry, I can't actually see against the spotlights, but if you can introduce yourself.
I'm Christian Pohl from ETH in Zurich. Hi Matthias. Hi Ulli. I have a question concerning the methods book and how simple it is for the students to use the methods. And this is because when we produced the handbook of transdisciplinary research, we thought it's only possible to give case examples, so people can only learn from case examples. And then with the methods book, I was always a bit skeptical whether it's possible to present those methods like statistics and then teach it to students, and then they will be able to use those methods. So what are your experiences with the methods book?
Completely different experiences, because it turns out that it's very helpful for planning research projects or running or executing research processes, and as well as for teaching. Here in Lüneburg we are using it in the sustainability faculty. It is widely used for teaching. It is because this book has two chapters. It has the chapter with the 43 methods, single methods that are completely decontextualized from their cases and their scientific and societal settings, so to say. And on the other hand, there's the second chapter that describes these methods, the same methods, in the context where we detected them, in the real case studies where we detected them in completely different research fields. And there's a strong linkage between these chapters where you can see, if you detect a method that you're interested in, you can see the context, the integration story, so to say, and the context with other methods where this specific method was used, and vice versa. So it's it's a very important learning tool for both, for researchers and for students as well.
But we have a series of students around here at the German Co-Conference, and we will ask them. They're from the Masters of Sustainability Science and currently from a TD Summer School, and we will ask them to comment on this question too in the online format.
Would you like to do that now? Have you got a microphone there, or how would we do that? Do you want to invite one of your students up to the front to make a comment, perhaps?
No.
No?
What, may somebody come out? Oh no.
Come on, give it a go.
Sorry for this.
Okay, we'll throw to another question in our audience then. Yeah, Michael.
Hi, I'm Michael O'Rourke from Michigan State University. I very much appreciate your talk, and I look forward to reading the book. I'm curious if you could speak just a little bit more generally about integration. Personally, I'm quite a fan of integration. I know that it's not necessarily something that everyone in the room here is a fan of, but I am a fan of it. But what would you say to someone who responded to your talk by saying, look, you've listed the 3 dimensions of integration, right? You've also listed, you've provided at the end a kind of a long list of integrative methods. What reason is there to think that there's one thing that all of those things are, as opposed to, you know, that integration here as a label actually picks out one thing, as opposed to a variety of different types of processes that are that should be differentiated and treated separately? Does that make that so? There's a lot going on under the banner of integration, and so there's just this concern that I have that it makes sense and is productive, theoretically productive, to use one notion to kind of rule them all.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you.
Okay.
Give me 1 second then.
Okay. I see, and that's the conference we all are in, I see the integration and the implementation as these are tied together very, very closely. And the implementation, if you want to reach something, as Merit Polk a few minutes ago were talking about, if you reach something that you can call socially robust knowledge at the end, that means knowledge that has that will be accepted and will be used for a transformation process, then the integration at least has to take place in terms of integrating the societal practice into the research process from the very beginning, even from the detection of the problem. And of course, during the formulation of the problem at the very beginning of the research. I'm taking part in a number of what they call transdisciplinary discourses or transdisciplinary dialogues, so to say, where not research processes are taking place, but dialogues on transformation knowledge, to make it very, very short. And if you aren't possible to integrate the appropriate partners into this process, then it will fail. So this is only the integration of actors, partners, people, and not of methods and theories, of course. But when you find a problem where never ever has been developed an appropriate method, like my example from the transportation studies, then you have to have a new common integrated method. And so there are many different examples for integration that you have to take into account if you want to generate something that is really socially robust.
Let me just mention one aspect, in particular for those being critical about integration. There is a complementary part which has not been mentioned in this. Pardon?
Can you be quick, because we're getting close to wrap up, so...
Okay.
Yes.
There is a complementary task to realize when it comes to integrate different aspects, and this is boundary work. Because before starting integration, we have to know which entities, identities, tasks, or whatever we refer to when it comes to integration. So boundary work is something that should help us to elaborate the differences which should then be tried to whether bridged or acknowledged. That's just what I wanted to add to this point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll say goodbye to you now, but thank you for a very interesting end to our day. It wrapped up a lot of concepts that we'd maybe touched on earlier during the day. So can everybody join me in thanking Ulli and Matthias for